This video is brought to you by our brand new collaboration with Long Slice Brewery, our Metropolitan Pilsner. You can pick it up at the LCBO, the beer store, or at Long Slice Brewery.
Today we're talking about the history of beer in Toronto.
The history of beer in Canada is a lengthy one. The first Toronto brewery was situated on the northeast corner of what is now Sherbourne in Richmond, opening around the year 1800. Robert Henderson and his brewery produced 30 barrels of beer a week, almost entirely for the soldiers at Fort York. At the time, soldiers defending against America at Fort York were partially paid in beer, typically around 6 pints a day. The practical role of beer transitioned, though. As the city grew, so did its thirst. By the mid-1800s, numerous breweries were spread out through the city.
So right now I'm standing on Walnut Avenue, just south of Queen West. Right over here on the southwest corner of the intersection was the John Farr Brewery. It was opened in 1820. It was closed down in 1887.
The only remaining part of the brewery is John Farr's house, right here, built in 1847. This video is brought to you by our brand new collaboration with Long Slice Brewery, our Metropolitan Pilsner. You can pick it up at the LCBO, the beer store, or at Long Slice Brewery.
So Garrison Creek ran straight through Trinity Bellwoods Park. The only remainder of it right now is the Dog Bowl. But that creek kept going down right here. And on the west bank was the John Farr Brewery. A lot of breweries in town were along creeks simply because of the running water.
By the late 1800s, efforts to curb debauchery had stepped up. Eugene O'Keeffe, the owner of one of the largest breweries in Canada, played a significant role in the growing temperance movement. He lowered the alcohol content of his beers and advocated for lighter liquors. The push for alcohol moderation preceded the upcoming prohibition, but from my memory from my university days, the lower the alcohol content simply meant more beers I'd have to find. But perhaps this is why O'Keeffe was such a successful businessman. The Ontario Temperance Act, or Prohibition of Alcohol, would be Ontario law from 1916 to 1927. Certain municipalities took this far more seriously than others, though. The obvious being the Junction, who didn't have legal booze from 1904 to the year 2001. Following Prohibition, the province opted to take more assertive control of alcohol. The LCBO was formed, as was Brewers Retail Inc., now known as the beer store. As of 2013, only 13% of Ontarians knew that the beer store is not actually a government-owned enterprise. It's owned by Molson, Coors, Labatt, and Sleemans, leading to continued questions of how fair the playing field is for independents. The mid-1900s started the serious consolidation of breweries across Canada. Molson and Labatt's moved to Toronto in the 1950s, Molson along Lakeshore, Labatt along King Street East. For the next few decades, Canadian beer would predominantly be controlled by the bigwigs. Starting in the 1980s, though, Toronto and Ontario started to see a renaissance, which continues to this day. These days, you can find hundreds of different local beers all across Ontario. But the one we highly suggest is the brand new Metropolitan Pilsner brewed by Long Slice Brewery, which is a collaboration with the Old Toronto series. And it's available at the LCBO and the beer store, or at Long Slice Brewery in Toronto.